Spencer, Jesse, Alex, and Cash. You're next on the Reddit Swing Analysis, episode 10. See you soon. Good afternoon, golfers, non-golfers, and Reddit users. Thanks again for joining me. Today is a special episode 10 already. I cannot believe it's going that quickly. All in all, we've helped close to 40 people at least get an analysis to see what they can do in their swing. If you wish to be a part of this, please submit your down the line and also face on camera views. And for the down the line, please make sure it's far enough back so we can capture your whole plane line and your whole body so we can see everything that's happening. If you want to submit a worm view, we can look at worm views too. That is just a little bit hard to figure things out, but I'll take what you give me. The email's below, so just go ahead and send that and I'll put you right in the pipeline. So let's get right to it. Keep in mind that this is just my opinion. This is not a factual evidence. This is not, I don't know much about these submissions. I don't know their range of motion, their ball history, their ball flights, injuries, all that stuff. So this is just purely speculation, and it's just something that a instructor would look at and say, well, I might fix that, but we don't know if we want to fix it until I know who you are. So keep that in mind. Let's get going. We have Alex. So Alex, let me pull up Alex's notes here. Alex says he's been playing golf for 9 or so months. So again, pretty new. Welcome, Alex. Made my high school varsity team. Congratulations. This year, but I struggled with consistency and a slice over the past weeks. So I have been working on getting more shallow in my transition to the downswing and not getting steep. Slices don't necessarily mean you're getting steep. Just be careful with that. You can actually still slice a ball with a shallowness. The down the line front facing videos of today, which was a couple days ago, and after keeping the grip at the end of the ball, after some work keeping the grip end at the ball, I think I understand what he's saying. If there are any tips or anything else you can help me with, really appreciate it. Okay, let's take a look here. So varsity team, good job after 9 months. That's pretty cool. Let me move that out the way. All right. It's a pretty good move there you got there, Alex, for only 9 months. Okay, so it looks like there's an alignment issue, just where your hands are placed. I see this a lot of lefties, and I don't know why. It's usually their shoulders are open to the target, so we'll be able to see that from the other side. Takeaway's a little bit stuck on your lead side. You can see this trail hips kind of bumping out instead of turning from this view. Although you do turn, but you can see there's like, you're almost sitting. You're sitting here getting caught on that hip. There's not a lot of transfer. Up here you can see your upper body's leaning towards the target, and it's reflective of it. It's kind of like a reverse C here for you. Okay. Club angle is pretty good at the top. Once the shoulders start turning, it's a little bit too much there. So shoulders stop turning here. The rest is just, kind of fluff. And this little area, and we've seen this a lot this week, is if you take a look at that little motion with your arms, what it's doing to your body. Your lead knee is starting to buckle in. The weight's being shifted incorrectly. So a lot of these issues that we face today are just by letting your arms get carried away and not in front of your body, in front of your chest. And they're a little bit behind the 8 ball. So there, it's good. It's pretty connected to that chest. When we get down to here, they're behind. So let's take a look at the back, because I'll be really curious what's going on in the back. All right, you can definitely see some shoulder alignment issues. Your left shoulder is really covering your right shoulder. It's hard to see with that hoodie too. It's just difficult to see where your shoulders are, but I can see the very other side of your arms. So we see one arm, 2 arms. You shouldn't be able to see 2 arms. You should be able to see 1 arm, and that means your shoulders are in correct alignment. Your feet are almost closed and your shoulders are open. So I would imagine, this is where your slice comes from. It's not necessarily shallowing the shaft, although it might help in your case because you are open. And I would imagine if you just keep that relative to your motions, you're always going to fight a outside in motion, and that will cause you to try and cure it by getting flatter. But that's not necessarily a cure that I would recommend. I would rather cure the root cause of your problem, which to me just shows right now, just by looking at it, is the open shoulders at starting point. But let's see how it's affected in your swing. So you're trying to get shallower on the way down. Boy, you have a really good motion. I'm telling you, for only 9 months of playing, you've got a solid motion. That is really good. Honestly, from this side of view, just get your arms a little bit, more out in front of your chest. You can see the club is getting, and this is a result of you being open. So when you're open at address, meaning your left shoulder's, in this position where it's kind of pointing ahead of the right shoulder, it's going to make your arm path move outward just by nature because it's starting in an outward plane. So your compensation move for that is to pull your club back behind you. So we see the disconnection of the two. So this is kind of what I'm talking about, where the club is behind you because your shoulders are kind of open to your target. So you're disconnected there. And from that point, now, I can see why your arms have to go further back to try and get that club even further back on plane. And then you have a little rerouting here. But from this top position here, as you start driving into that target, that is one of the better down the line swings I've seen in quite some time in terms of not only your newness to the game, 9 months in you can get to this position, but the athleticness of it. Is that even a word, athleticness? I'm just making stuff up now. But the athletic nature, let's say that, of that motion. Good solid release, great footwork. You do a lot of great things. So I would just really recommend with somebody like this, you clearly have athletic prowess for this game. You can see the arms on follow through too, so they should finish more united with the body. So basically where the body stops turning, the arm should basically kind of come to a standstill. But this very, very last follow through, see how they don't stop and they just keep going on and coming off that plane there too? That's just a sign that the arms have been a little bit too much involved, and their momentum's a lot different than your body's momentum. So I see disconnection between your arms and your hands, and to me, honestly, that disconnection comes from being open at the target, at address, and then you're trying to reconnect to the plane line by getting your arms and hands to roll over and be involved. So let's just cut to the chase. Square up your shoulders at address, and think more one-piece takeaways. So try not to roll the hands too much. Just basically turn. The rest of your swing, I'm telling you what, I want you to send me a follow-up in a month or so. Check your alignments, send me another swing from down the line. I want to make sure that alignment's good, because we'll see what happens when you just change the alignment and just start, figuring it out like you did to get to that position. So really good. I'm really impressed. You have quite a future ahead of you. So keep pushing. And by the way, I love your driving range. That's got to be the coolest driving range, right? Is that a lake? No, that's a street. My eyes, they're getting bad from the sun. Hard to tell, to take a guess. It must be cold. Well, my version of cold. I'm wearing this and it was 70 degrees. Keep in mind, we're in the desert, so we're used to 110 all the time. But I'm just going to throw it out there. I see this flag. It just reminds me of Belgium. Let's just say, like Germany. All right. Let me know. Next up. All right, here we have Cash. Now, Cash isn't his real name. It's his Reddit name. So, Cash. It should be a real name. That's a cool name. See, a little bit forward press there, just like we saw on yesterday's video. Okay, upper body leaning over. Kind of restricted lower body turn. Okay, let's take a look at this impact. Okay, so it's hard to see with that shutter speed. This reminds me of the first time I started using video, where this was slow motion. You can just kind of see the shape of your club and looking at the reflection of the sun to see the shaft. So I'm used to kind of seeing this footage, but you can definitely tell a lot that the body, again, is trying to muscle a lot of this golf ball. You look like a strong guy, so I would imagine there's a lot of muscle behind this. The arms aren't really as free as they should be. Great thing though is you keep your arms and chest in relation to each other, so your body stops turning there. That is perfect. So look at you there. Body stops turning, hands just stop. Awesome. Coming through, I don't think that club gets quite on the slot. We'll look from the other side, but there's definitely just a lot of body involved that should not be involved. Look at that spinning going on. So I see, again, muscling the golf ball. And we start to see that spin on that left heel. Front view will help us, but I'm not a huge fan of this. And this is obviously, if you're working with somebody, you'd ask them for their opinion too. But when you start forward leaning that club, which is called shaft lean, you're trying to premature shaft lean to try and get in that position at impact. we don't really get that much shaft lean as you think. But now that golf grip is off of your power source. So my philosophy is get that golf grip more controlled and more inside of your power source, because you want to be connected. You're already starting disconnected. That's going to change your loft. It's going to change your lie angle. It's going to change your face angle. So a lot of these things can, it's more of an issue that is creating than helping you. So that's my recommendation here. Just ball position is great. Ball position is stuck right to your head. So you can see that's the club face is matching your head. Plus that forward press typically opens your shoulders, and now all of a sudden you have path issues too, unless you tilt under it, but then you're going to have contact issues because you're going to make contact with the ground too soon. So that's what I can gather from the front view. Arms more neutral, and we'll figure out what's going on with your body from the down the line. Let me take a look here. Okay, here we go. Cash, let's take a look at you down the line. And now we're assuming you're still forward pressing on this one. Okay, yeah, so arms and hands, that club face is coming inside. It's hard to see where that club face is, but if I can try and guess where that club head is just by those two shadows, I see a shadow there and I see a shadow there. So definitely looks close to your spine. You would like it to be at bare minimum matching that spine. Sometimes it's okay to flare it open, so you want to see that club kind of open to close a little bit more, so that might help you there. But the arms are actually going up and away, and that's what I was afraid of. So you can see by that forward lean, with your shoulders are opening up to get your hands ahead of the golf ball. You're wide open. And the reason why you're pulling that club back is because your arm path, just like the last video, your arm path is going back here where your club head needs to go over here. So you have to disconnect the two of them to get them somewhat near to the plane. As we start rolling back here, okay, you do a pretty good job of getting it reconnected though. The club face is definitely shut at this point. And there's your plane. Okay, so yeah, there's definitely a lot of plane issues going on here. Severe loss of power. Honestly, this all stems from that forward pressing. It's just throwing things off. It's throwing your sequencing. It's throwing everything out. Let me get rid of all these lines. It looks like a ladder just fell on you. Okay, so I'll show you what I mean here. So ideally, you would like to be somewhere in between your plane. Now everybody's plane is completely different depending on how their arm length ratio is, on how tall they stand, how much bend they have. So there's no universal plane. It's your plane. Now with you forward pressing it, you've probably minimized your plane a lot. So look at that little window you've given yourself to get into that slot. Now if you had a more traditional setup, your hands will be a little bit lower because they're closer to you, they're more centered, they're hanging naturally, they're not pushed open, and your plane will probably be a little bit lower, so you'd have more room to get into it, right? So that's why I'm just not a fan of that forward pressing as well. But as you take that club back, your arms are on that path line, but because your shoulders are open, the club has to get sucked back in to try and get you near that slot. Top position, you do a good job of getting your hands to the top, but, and I did it again, my New Year's resolution. Okay, now, but take a look when that club falls in, it is just turning from that position. So there's not a lot of tilt. You're stuck. There's not a lot of motion in your body. So I just see a very, armsy, controlling upper body motion, but not a lot of tilting going on. So we definitely need to help you tilt under the golf ball from the top of the swing to impact, to help you get that club somewhere near your plane. But you can't do that yet until you solve the initial problem, which is getting your hands more neutral, connect that club to your body. Once you connect that club to the body, you'll be able to turn more. Your arms won't have to separate to keep that club face near the plane, because now your arm path is not too far outside in, and then you won't have to try and get your hands back in front of the golf ball, in front of the body, because of that separation, which then causes your outside in motion, which you can see results to you not using your body correctly and you become more like a robot. So it really starts with ball position, address, setup, posture, okay, and your grip. So all that encompasses the GASP. But other than that, start with the basics, get those hands closer, feel like you're more connected. Definitely a one-piece turn. So let me know if that helps. I'm guessing You know, I said New York last video and I was wrong. I'm staying with New York. Let's see if we can get this. I'm going to say New York every time until I get it. So hopefully you're in New York. Next up. All right, everybody. We have Jesse. Let me pull up Jesse's information. Just says he's been playing for 8 months. So I'm sorry, actually, Cash on the last one, I failed to read his notes. So basically, he's also been playing for a few months. So welcome to Golf, Cash. Hope you enjoy this game as much as I have in the many years I played it. I played this game for 40 years, so I've seen enough, both negatives and positives. So here we have Jesse. He's been playing golf for 8 months. So far we have a bunch of new golfers, which is awesome. 9 months, 8 months, 7 months, 2 months. So I love this. Same sort of situation already off the bat. We can see, you know, I don't know if this is being taught on some YouTube channels, but I'm not really a fan of it. Just that shaft lean, we don't need that. That's just my personal preference though. So let's just take a look what happens. Taking the club back. Okay, same sort of thing. We're sitting on that right hip instead of turning that right hip. And once you're there, you're kind of stuck because all your weight kind of pushes out to that right side of the right foot. You don't have much to push off of. It sacrifices your turn because as you're sitting, you can't really turn anymore because you lock your hips. But great amount of arm motion. Look at that. That's about textbook. So great job. As your upper body turns and stops, there's hardly any momentum taking you back, and a lot of that does have to do with the speed of your backswing. If you have a controlled, slow backswing, it's a lot easier to stop your hands. But if you're fast, that's when the arms just want to keep going for momentum. So a lot of it really depends on the speed, and it's hard to tell in a slow motion video. But on the way down, you know, you're trying to tilt back into it, but there's really not much to push off of. Overall, though, I mean, for only 8 months, man, I'm super happy to see a lot of new players that we have lately have great motions with their body. You know, Cash's last swing, he had a lot of potential with his motions. I mean, so you know, the golf's looking good. It's looking good for the next people to carry that torch. We see a little bit of that premature release there, and that's just maybe a result of you not turning too much. I'd have to see from the other side, but great spine angle. Great tilt. Maintain your tilt. You're keeping that triangle out in front of you. So I mean, there's a lot of good looking things. That's a horrible line. There we go. That's better. Almost better. But that's what we're looking for. We're looking for that, you know, that universal triangle to just move through the target, move through the impact zone, and while your hands and arms are less out of it. And typically we see ones that have a lot of arm motions, their arms cross that triangle, and they have to time that triangle now. So if I'm here at the start and at the top of my swing, you know, my arms push my triangle like this, that impact, I have to get my arms and hands to catch up, strike the golf ball, and then it goes the other way. But if you can work on just turning and turning, your arms and your chest relationship are the same. It becomes a lot easier to hit the golf ball, but it actually feels like less work and it's more stretch. So some people don't like that feeling. So this is more comfortable when your arms just kind of go where they want to go. But all in all, I mean, for the amount of time that you've been playing, you're pretty good. I'd say just let those hands relax, get that shaft more vertical. If it helps you put the ball position up a bit, maybe 1 or 2 golf balls, that's great. But try not to settle too much on your left side. You look a little bit left dominant, so get your weight more in the center. That should help you get that turn established. From this point of view, if you look at your distance between your right hip, there's your start. And then let me make sure to make this visible. Yes, I remembered. And as you take that club back, you can see that right hip kind of bowing out and you're sitting, which kind of gets you this kind of reverse. Oh, now it's a real C. And you want to just turn around that right hip. So turn around right hip, hands more centered. Let's take a look at your down the line. All right, this is Jesse's down the line. Man, this looks familiar. I think we got this same range 3 or 4 episodes ago. I remember that individual trying to hit that target there, but it could just be the same blow-up tent in a different place. I'm assuming you're from somewhere with the snow outside. Okay. Yeah, you can see that sitting on that right hip. And we see this a lot. You see kind of like this really rounded hip. That's when we're sitting and we're just kind of bumping our our butt out because all the weight's kind of shifting to the right side. So there's not much to push off on. But you know, from this angle, it's hard to tell because you're not exactly down the line, but it's pretty good. Look at that shaft. Nice and, you know, sitting right there. You're suffering the turn because this hasn't turned as much as you would like because you're bumping it and you're kind of sitting on the right hip. So if you start turning your hips a little bit more and stay more centered, the shoulder turn is going to increase, the hand turn is going to increase naturally. Club face to your left forearm is pretty good. It's slightly open, which is fine. Coming down into impact, you do what you can to drop it in the slot. But since, you know, it's hard to tell from this angle, but it looks like you might be coming slightly over the top. If this angle was a little bit more left. But, you know, all in all, your relationships are pretty good. Not sure what ball that was. Doesn't say anything. Excuse me, what club that was. Doesn't say anything. Looks a little bit low. But, you know, that could just be a contact issue. All in all, for 8 months, keep it up. Get that right hip turning instead of swaying. Hands more down the center. Hope that helps. All right, last but not least, we have Spencer. So Spencer is 31 years old. Been playing now recently for 6 months. It looks like he used to play in high school, and he's getting back into it. He says his swing speed roughly 90 miles an hour with an 8-iron, and then also feels that he is getting the club trapped behind him, over swinging, and also he suffers from the occasional rope hook. You know, don't we all? I think that's a common thing. But let's take a look at why. I don't know if you're your height. You know, I think you said you have 1.5 degrees over. 1.5 inches over with your club length. Just because you're tall doesn't necessarily mean you need longer clubs. It all comes down to your arm length ratio, your torso ratio, you know, how short your legs are. A lot of things taken into play. I've actually fit people that were very short that needed longer clubs. So it just really depends. All right, let's take a look. It says you have a little bit of arm motion here, so we'll see. Right off the bat, yeah, I see what you mean. So your right arm does pull back in your body a little bit there. And then, yep, you kind of suffer dropping back into slop. So right away, I mean, just from this point of view, we'll see from the front side to see if it makes any sense. But let's take a look. Let me draw this one basic line for you. That spine angle line to see if at least you're rotating around your spine. I don't see much issues with your lower body, and I couldn't get away. I think I saved this time once. I think I'm going to make a video finally where I'm not going to have to do that, so that's my goal. Alright, so based on this, we should see a shoulder tilt around there. Okay, so let's see if we can do that. Ha! You know, that's just ridiculous. Alright, so did you get that shoulder tilt? Pretty close. Okay, so maybe slightly more shoulder tilt with the left shoulder, bringing your hands up a little bit higher to lock your hands into your chest. Whenever you get a little bit more turn, so you can see at this angle here, you have slightly more turn than your initial tilt. So whenever your left arm gets a little bit high for the right-handed golfers, whenever your left shoulder goes up, that frees up your rotation. So maybe you're rotating too much. We can see from the front view, but I would guess you're rotating too much. Anytime your left shoulder stays down in that tilt, it kind of stops you from turning a lot, and then your arms can actually be in a better position, which will cause you not to be so far back with your arms here. I can just see it from there. From here, you know, you're jamming yourself, so your arms are behind the game. They should already be out in front of your chest more. There's not enough clearance for them to kind of tilt and go under. If you do it right now, they'll hit the side of your body and the club won't even make it down to the golf ball. So your only path of exit for your arms and hands is more outward, and that's all momentum based. So there's no real way for you to drop it in the slot. And I can see why you do, you know, you eventually drop it in the slot, but I think you do it just out of standing up. Look at your new spine angle. Spine angle is much more vertical. So, you know, yeah, you save it. I mean, you do a good job. You're obviously big and strong, and you can get away with a lot of things that us mere mortals can't. Us mere 5'10" guys can't. So, you know, usually to your advantage. However, I still see a lot of suffering going on, and this could definitely lead to a snap hook, especially if that club doesn't clear down in time and it still comes over the top. It gets caught up in your motion, comes over the top. Plus, you release it, that thing's going left and even further left. So, just by this point of view, we'll look at the front to see how your setup is, but get that left shoulder to go down more, so it'll get your hands more out in front of you so you don't turn as much. And then also, if you can stop your arms, we can really see that triangle's gone. I mean, I'll show you in the front view. Let me pull that up. Okay, so here's the front view. Ooh, another forward press. I wonder if this is like a week of forward pressing. So again, I'm not a huge fan of this because it's already off your power source. It might lead to your shoulder. I've read up on the ideology of connecting it to your lead arm. However, my personal opinion is by connecting it to your lead arm, it's pulling off of your power source, and it really severely adjusts your bottoming of the circle. So if you draw a circle around here, that's the center point. That's the bottom of the circle. Because your hands are so far outside, naturally when you release the club, the point of contact should be here, but you're almost like trying to preset yourself, and it just throws things off. I mean, it just doesn't make much sense to me. Now, some other instructors live and die by that, and that's fine. If it works for their student, that's great. I'm not here to argue stuff. I'm just here to, this is my philosophy. And you can see, you're already increasing your tilt to get your hands out in front. So yours is not so much a turn issue to get your hands out in front. You kind of tilt under to get your hands out in front. But again, that's just my interpretation. Taking it back, right hip does shoot out a little bit. So if you draw that right hip line, you can see it kind of shoot over that right hip line. I did it again. Jeez. It is later in the day, so forgive me. I had a meeting in between my shooting, so I had to come back. This is about 6 hours later. So you can see the right hip does pop over a little bit of that line. Upper body's falling back a little bit, but you can see that triangle's gone. There's not a lot of turn, so I think you just need to turn your hips more. There's not a lot of turn, and by you not turning enough, you're trying to get your arms further back to make up for that lack of turn. But now you're in a position where we can't even see almost your both hands. If that was a little bit longer, your both hands would just be behind your head. So that is severely disconnected. Here's your shoulders, and that's where your arms should be. So you're 2 or 3 hand widths away from it, and all you're doing at this point now is you're trying to catch up. And the only way to catch up is to throw your hands back out around your body. So, and there's that reconditioning of your spine angle to compensate for your tilt. So you're losing a lot of distance, a lot of potential distance. So you're hitting your 8 iron, it says approximately 160. I mean, don't get me wrong, you can still hit it pretty hard just because of your size, but most of us from any position can hit a golf ball. It's how consistent can you hit that golf ball. If I aim 40 yards to the right, I can learn how to hit it, pull it 40 yards left or hook it 40 yards left. So you can learn how to hit a golf ball. But when you're constantly trying to better yourself and your misses are so extreme that it's a duck hook every now and then, something dramatic is happening in your motion to do that. So for you, let's recommend right hip to turn, arms more out in front of your chest, so you don't pull your arms back enough. And give that a try. Let me know how it goes. So, I hope that helps everybody that's watching this video, and I hope you can see, other swings and just kind of learn to see cause and effect, and just understand that the reason I'm doing this is not only for education, but to help you guys know that YouTube videos are great, and it's good for knowledge. It's good to understand how things work in a perfect world, but everyone's so unique that you might see some similarities between people, but it's just too unique. If I'm working with any of these students that I've done, I would definitely work on, the first meeting is learning who you are, how your body is, how your body moves, your hand-eye coordination, your range of motion, your flexibility. There's so much involved. So there's no cookie cutter motion. There's no cookie cutter swing tip. There's no such thing as a secret in golf. The secret's found in the dirt. And that's a saying that we used to use where you just hit a bunch of golf balls. But even that can create a lot of bad issues. So my best recommendation for you is, once you watch this, just understand there's so many moving parts, and you just need somebody with an eye to kind of see it. And if you agree with that, that's a good relationship to start, and you can start building a process to get you in your new goal. It's not necessarily my view. You don't have to agree with this. That's fine. But this can at least open your eyes to see that everyone is so unique and so different, that there's no blanket fixes. So hopefully that helps. If you like this content, please subscribe, spread the word. It helps me grow the channel, helps me grow the awareness. And my goal is to get to 100 episodes of Reddit Golf, and eventually I'm going to open up to everybody. So Reddit Golf exclusive. But thank you very much, and as always, fairways and greens.